Hi guys, so it's Friday again. Woo. Yeah, this week I was a little bit unsure as to what to talk about in terms of my Fibro Friday, and I actually started pain management just a couple of weeks ago, so I decided I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with pain management, because before I went I had several people say, oh, it's really good, it's really helpful, and other people saying what an absolute waste of time it was. But I've gone into it with an open mind and I've been trying to embrace it, and yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag at the moment. I'm not sure how I feel at the minute about it. Like, they teach us a lot of mindfulness, which is basically just taking time to look at yourself without judgment, or just, they say, in a kindly manner. So it's just kind of noticing your body. So it's not necessarily a way of dealing with the pain, it's more a way of thinking about something else for a moment and getting out of that place a little bit. And I find that stuff really good. I enjoy that stuff. Only yesterday when I went, I just really couldn't get into it at all. First two sessions I was okay, I enjoyed it and what have you, but I just could not relax. I couldn't get comfortable, whether that's because I can feel a bit of a flare coming on, and I get into that place where I don't want to interact or get involved in stuff necessarily. But it just all felt a bit odd. Like, we had to do a mindfulness practice at the end where we were given a raisin, and personally it did absolutely nothing for me, because we had to get this raisin and sit and think about what it looks like, how it feels, and move it around and feel it. The point where I completely went off to my own place was when I was told to listen to the raisin. Now, I'm sure if you were in that zone, that would make sense there and then, but at that point, being told to listen to a raisin when I've already got this sceptical, horrible, angry little thing on my shoulder, it just, I don't know, I found it really difficult to engage with the activity. We were then asked to put the raisin in our mouth and chew it and taste it, and my brain could only think, well, I got the bus here, I've walked through the hallway, I had to press the bell, and I've just been rubbing this raisin around in my hand. I don't want to put that in my mouth. That my germ phobe kind of overtook the situation and I couldn't get into it. But the positives I've found so far is that it's almost like I've got a new group of friends, because there's about 12 of us or so. Some people haven't arrived again, but everyone's got their own circumstances. They have reasons they can't get there. And yeah, the group has dwindled a little bit from the start. There were one or two, like the first session, there was quite a few people. It certainly felt like there was a lot of people there, but there's certain faces that just haven't come back, so maybe they just decided there and then it wasn't for them. I'm quite happy to go through with the 8 weeks, and because there might be something really useful that I've learnt. Like I say, the mindfulness has been really quite a nice way to just focus on something else for a moment. Not that I sit there dwelling on my problems all the time, it's just a way of releasing from that situation. The positive of the group is that I've met some really nice people in that group now. There's 3 or 4 that I get on really well with, and we're all sort of having a joke now when we have a break and things like that. Another downside though is it's a 3-hour session and the chairs are not particularly comfortable, so when you're already there because you're in chronic pain, and then when you're sat on like a really uncomfortable chair for 3 hours, I kind of end up coming home in a little bit of pain. But it's a case of weighing up the positive and the negatives, which I do with most things anyway. It's been interesting so far. There have been 1 or 2 things said, and it's just quite interesting having other people's interpretations of their pain and their way of dealing with it and things that are important to them, really. One thing that I've really quite liked about the group is that every week we kind of evaluate our goals and our values, and each week they sort of try and get us to think of a goal for ourselves to do. It doesn't have to be something that you can achieve in that week. It can be a bigger goal, but you sort of have to break things down because you can't necessarily get to the end goal without taking steps towards it, and it's just getting your brain to realise that and apply it to your everyday life. So one of my goals was that I wanted to get out with my Miss Thumper a bit more because she had some time off, and normally it's just a case of we'll do one or two little bits and then I end up in bed because I'm in pain again. So 2 weeks ago in group I kind of wanted to spend a bit of quality time with Miss Thumper and do something really nice, and we actually ended up going to Sherwood Forest and having a walk. Now it should have taken 20 minutes to get from the visitor centre to the major oak. This is what it says on the sign, but it took me nearly an hour to walk there. That didn't matter. I got there, I got to the major oak and back. Yes, it took nearly 2 hours to do it, but we both really enjoyed it because we were just walking along, we were chatting, just laughing at stuff, just taking in the surroundings of the forest and things like that, and my inner hippie was very happy. I took some pictures of some birds that were feeding, and it was just a really nice little day. And yes, I did pay for it for a couple of days, but I now can look back and say, well, I remember when we went to the major oak. So it's certainly changing my mentality on it, because they said from day one that pain management course is not designed to cure your pain. That's not what they're there for. It's just helping you learn to physically and mentally deal with your pain, because the physio side is trying to help the physical side of it all, and pain management is helping the old noggin readjust. And it's also a little bit about not being quite so harsh and judgmental on yourself, because it's very easy if you've got a chronic condition to feel guilty all the time or feel worthless. And yes, I have I will be the first to put my hands up and say I have definitely been in that headspace more than once more. And even quite recently I still have little bouts of guilt when there's jobs to do and I can't move, and I think, well, Miss Thumper's at work and then it's a case of us having to do it together at the weekend, yet I'm off ill. I should be able to do that, but the reality is I'm not working because I'm not well. And yes, there are times I can do it if I break it down, a simple task, into about 7 stages, but I'll get it done at some point. It will take me all day sometimes to do one job, but it's just learning that there will be days I can't even do that. So yeah, the pain management has definitely been helping in terms of not beating myself up quite so much, and if that's the only thing I get from pain management, I'm happy with that, because I've felt a lot happier in myself since going in terms of that aspect. Physically, no, I am still in agony every day. There is no change to that, but that is not their purpose. Their purpose is fixing the brain out and making you look at life a bit differently, and I think overall it's making me a bit more pleasant to be around as well, because I'm not constantly sat there racked with guilt. So I'd rather than starting a conversation, I'll just sit there in silence. I'll now sit and talk about stuff a bit more openly and say, look, I feel really bad that I've not done whichever, and it's just opening up that conversation. So if you get offered pain management, yes, people will tell you it's absolute rubbish and don't waste your time, and yes, okay, there are elements that I think are absolute rubbish, but like I say, you have to just go and experience things for yourself, because if you don't, you're not going to have your interpretation of it, you're going to have someone else's experience of it, and there's no point in that, because you might find the mindfulness stuff really helpful, you might find listening to Raisins really helpful. Personally, it was just one step too far for me. Yesterday I couldn't cope with it. It seems to be a pattern that there are people there that have their days when they can sit there and do the exercises and do stuff. There are other days when they have to get up and leave the room for 5 minutes because they're just not in that right headspace, and there's nothing you can do to adjust it that day. It's just not happening. So, like I say, give it a go if you get offered the chance to try it, because there's no harm in trying these things. Even if you go and you try a few sessions and you just really aren't finding anything useful, then by all means leave, but at least you can say you've tried it for yourself. That's all I've got to say this week, really. I haven't particularly got a topic as such planned. If there's anything fibro related you'd like to see next Friday, again, you can get in touch with me on Twitter, Facebook and YouTube. I am also on quite a few of the Facebook groups, as I've done a video on before. If you happen to be on any of those groups and there's something you'd like to see and you don't necessarily have those other means of getting to me, message me on there and I will do what I can. I have one or two little topics in mind, but I'd like to know if that's something. I'd like to know if it's something that people are wanting to see or not. So yeah, get in touch. Like I say, let's just get involved and keep it going. Also, I'm going to re-mention the petition that is running by Fibro Partners, because it is still going. If you haven't already signed it, get your name down. I will leave the link below again, just because why the heck not? One or two new people that have started watching me, there's no harm in re-mentioning it. If you want to actually know what that's about, go ahead and watch my fibromyalgia diagnosis video. I describe it much more detailed in there. Yeah. Bye guys.